As if there weren't already enough reasons to put off your wedding, the date, the in-laws, the headache of getting a large number of relatives and friends in the same place at the same time and feeding them, now comes another reason to add to the list: the economy. The reason is, if you've got a job, you might lose it. If you have savings, you probably fancy holding on to them for the time being. The United States Census says only 52% of adults are now joined in wedded bliss, and that's the lowest level in 100 years.
People are anxious, they're depressed, they're stressed out, and it's not very conducive to a romantic relationship.
Or the ultimate expression of romance, a wedding. Therapists like Elisa Ruby Bash say couples hoping to get married find themselves returning to school instead in this bone-dry jobs market. More are still living at home with mum and dad, and the thought of a house purchase, children, daycare, nannies, all in an era where it's harder to get credit or a loan, is daunting to say the least.
So people are trying to save money and do whatever they can to afford marriage.
So marriage in the long term, yes, but what about right now? Weddings can cost tens of thousands of dollars here in the US, and that's money people aren't eager to spend. But there is a bright side to this story.
I think there are a lot of reasons why people get married.
Individuals like Doug Olin, for instance. Going through a divorce himself, he says the economy won't stop him from getting hitched again when the time is right.
No, because honestly, I'm kind of a romantic at heart.
When you love someone, you get married.
Proving one thing: hope and love spring eternal. John Terret, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Now, one of the key themes of Britain's ruling Conservative Party conference this week is the big society. It's a belief that the state shouldn't have to look after its people, even those in need. Lawrence Lee went to Birmingham to test out that theory on real people.
Here's a little community a couple of kilometres away from where Britain's ruling Conservatives are meeting. A small illustration, perhaps, of big society. In the bungalow on the corner live Dawn and her mother Pat.
Can we help you with anything?
Dawn has all kinds of conditions and needs a lot of care. Her mother is getting old and has had a cancer scare. Insofar as they can, they look after each other. Their home is chaotic. Pat relies on publicly funded services for Dawn to give her a rest.
I don't know what a full night's sleep is like with her. So when she's at the daycare centres, I doze in here on this chair.
But they're worried. Birmingham Council is having spending cuts forced on it. Day centres for people like Dawn are being shut all over town.
There's the friendship, but there's also the things that you can do at the day centres that keep us occupied, and it makes you forget your own ailments.
The government here says that if there's not enough money to pay for services, then perhaps friends or neighbours could step in and do the job instead. Dawn does have one neighbour who's also a friend from church. She's called Peggy and lives a couple of doors away.
Have you got any time, if she can't go to the respite centre, have you got time to help her?
Well, actually, unfortunately, I'm a semi-invalid myself, love, so I couldn't possibly push that.
Waiting for the bus to come and take her to the day centre, Dawn likes to spend time looking at cars and taking photos. Life without anyone but her mum would be too lonely to describe.
What will you do if the services aren't there anymore?
Well, some years ago when I had nothing to do, I did the most stupidest thing, and that was to take an overdose.
Big society might sound nice in the confines of a political gathering, but the reality on the streets can be brutal. If services like this disappear, thousands of voiceless and poor people all over this country will have nothing and nobody left to look after them. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera, Birmingham in England.